Hello, and welcome to another episode of my 18-part series where I explain each Space Marine Legion during the Great Crusade. This time, the Space Wolves. 6th Legiones Astartes. Space Wolves. The 6th Legion always remained apart from its fellows. Its origins are shrouded, and its reputation fearsome. Unexpected violence was its calling card. The Legion's campaigns, unsubtle but brutally swift. It was a peerless shock assault force, and tireless in both pursuit and hunter-killer roles. Like its namesake, the Wolves of Old Earth, the 6th Legion's assault resembled calculated exercises in ferocity aimed to tear and rend until the foe lay in ruins or was driven to its death. The Legion's warriors were hunters who reaved a bloody path across the stars of the Great Crusade, but did not stray far from the shadow of the Emperor. The Space Wolves were kept under the tight control of the Imperial Court and unleashed at the Emperor's command as a bloody-handed tool of punishment. The warriors of the 6th Legion knew well that they were not the builders of empire, nor were they the watchers on its walls, or lockstep soldiers who cared for bright pageantry. They were simply predators. Thus they had been made, and woe betide any who fell into their jaws. Primogenitor, Leman Russ. Cognomen, Prior. Non-officially recorded, but various informal and idiomatic cognomen inconsistently used, such as the Rout, Vika Fenrica, the Sky Warriors, and the Emperor's Executioners. Observe strategic tendencies: shock assault, search and destroy, pursuit operations, punitive and excoriation campaigns. Noteworthy domains: the Death World of Fenris, Lucan, Allegiance, Fidelitas Sine Recursiu. Jackals before wolves. The origins of the 6th Legion were held in utmost secrecy by the Emperor. Legion recruits were drawn not from Terra's nation-states, but selected on an individual basis from the most barbaric, regressive, and hyper-violent of cultures. Those who held to no collective identity and could be molded into weapons without prior imprint. Their gene seed was carefully segregated. It was extremely prone to fatal rejection, and for reasons unknown, the 6th Legion gene strain often imparted a distinct bestial countenance on those candidates that survived implantation. Because of this, the Legion was one of the smallest and slowest to grow in the years before the reunification with its Primarch. Given its small size, the 6th Legion served alongside auxiliary forces in major campaigns, or fought in smaller missions to destroy particular knots of enemy resistance in shock assaults. Over time, the Legion developed particular expertise conducting rapid operations and punitive actions against rebellion. However, its members quickly earned a grim reputation as butchers among those they fought alongside, and were often accused of indiscriminate slaughter and collateral damage, or even on occasion of killing allies. The Legion was not focused or precise. It was a force of nature unleashed, more a raging fire or tidal wave than an assaulting army. Its warriors reaped destruction, claiming no strategic assets and holding no ground, but rather subjecting enemy forces to savagery and brutality. Such behavior was feared by many in the Imperium, and the 6th Legion's future was uncertain until Leman Russ was rediscovered early in the Great Crusade. Lone wolves stalking the stars. The misdemeanors of old were made good under Leman Russ. The legionaries' bloodlust was brought under control with discipline and iron will, and their rage tempered by oath-sworn loyalty. Russ gave his legion pride in what it was, pride in the power it wielded, pride even in the monstrous violence which lurked within its heart. But with all this, he did not allow its warriors to crave glory for their own sake, nor drink too deep of the bitter draught of mindless bloodshed. He gave them purpose, and he gave them honor. Bleak as it was. They served only the Emperor, their All-Father. That duty was a sacred one, for the Space Wolves were wrapped in a cloak of secrecy and superstitious mythos of their own making. Abhorring so-called witches and spirits and reveling in their own poetic sagas, this was reinforced through psycho-indoctrination to protect their minds from the horrors they were forced to perpetrate and witness in the name of the Imperium. For a brief period under Russ, before many other Primarchs had been found, the Legion earned respect and renown, and commanded the might of many Imperialis battalions and other legions in addition to its own auxiliaries. Russ was a field general of surpassing skill, and enacted scores of successful compliances. However, many of the Space Wolves campaigns were unavoidable, grinding horrors and terrible wars of genocidal cleansing, the Legion choosing to focus its brutality against rebels who they cursed as oath-breakers and punished with excessive savagery. These wars and conflicts, such as the Cataclysm Rangdan Xenocides, redoubled the Legion's dark reputation, painting Russ not as a noble savage, but as an executioner and blood-spattered tyrant. And soon the Space Wolves were so feared by Great Crusade's own forces that they stalked the stars alone and could only be recalled by the Emperor himself. A legion clad in allegory. Fenris hosted the Fang, an enormous fortress carved from a mountain by Russ and the Emperor through expenditure of vast resources, uniquely allowing the Space Wolves to be entirely self-sufficient from both Terra and Mars. It hosted all the facilities of gene seed implantation, training, forging of arms and armor, and psycho-conditioning needed by the Legion to survive. This autonomy would prove a prescient boon as the Legion became removed from the wider Imperium. Within the Fang, the Legion's ranks and legends grew and took on a new shape. The Legion was organized unlike any other, with 13 distinct great companies, each nominally consisting of 10,000 Space Marines that competed for glory and the favor of their Wolf King, Leman Russ. These had diverse characters such as the First Company, On, which were the Vanguard elite, the Wolf Guard of Russ's own household, and the Seventh Company, the so-called Landaven, destroyers and layers of waste. Each great company was led by a Jarl, or Wolf Lord. Under these Jarls were many lieutenants, named Thane or Claw Leader, and the number of Thanes was very much at the discretion of the Jarls, who ruled their companies as a wolf leads a pack. The Thanes were in turn responsible for any number of packs, variants of small tactical units or task force, which each had a Huskar leader to keep its warriors in line. The Space Wolves were heavily infantry-focused in their martial ways. Packs were conditioned to hold a near-suicidal disregard for danger and trained to exploit this to the fullest extent on the battlefield, pitting their courage and might where it would be most effective, in the very teeth of the foe, overwhelming opponents by sheer speed and ferocity of attack, both in hand-to-hand combat and in brutal short-range firefights. As time went on, tactical dispositions shifted to better accommodate this preference, leading to the creation of unique shock units such as the Grey Slayers and Bloodied Claws, which gradually came to comprise the bulk of core infantry of the Legion. The Primarch, Leman Russ. Leman Russ was the so-called Wolf King of the primitive death world, Fenris. A world that should not be possible. Fenris' ecology of burgeoning megafauna, its shifting geology of frozen seas and molten islands, its storm-racked climate and hell winters and burning summers, and even its extant path through space represents paradoxes and contradictions of nature. It is speculated that Fenris was perhaps artificially constructed in a bygone epoch so as to create the exact conditions required for precisely only one thing: raising a hardy savage warrior race and their king. There would be no bright towers and industry for Fenris under the Imperium. Its conditioning would be carefully preserved and shrouded in deeper myth by Russ and the Emperor. Leman Russ's early history is remembered through allegorical accounts that speak of his upbringing by a pack of wolves, the barbaric wars he fought for supremacy, and that when he met his father, he challenged him to contests of strength, wit, and will like the Norse kings of old earth. What is fact is that Russ himself was not a savage, but possessed of dazzling intellect and singular cunning, giving his rivals the impression of dull-witted barbarity while holding logic and reason as high virtues. Though he embraced Fenris culture, was headstrong and defined right and wrong in the starkest of terms, Russ took easily to his role in the Imperium, absorbing readily its advanced technology and accepting the Emperor's vision of galactic unity. His testing and training was brief compared to other Primarchs, and he quickly took full command of his legion, one that could now thrive with the stabilizing intervention of his canized gene helix upon its gene seed. Russ ultimately reshaped the 6th Legion, a force which notoriously disrespected high authority and followed only strength, with the addition of Fenris, tempering their feral nature and commanding their respect by will and deed. This has been the Space Wolves of the Great Crusade. Thank you for watching.